Our next guest is an actor, director, and best-selling author. You know him as a member of the Brat Pack, starring in classic 80s movies like Pretty in Pink and St. Elmo's Fire. Well, now he's written a memoir about that called Brat, an 80s Story. Let's say good morning to Andrew McCarthy. Andrew, good morning.
Good morning.
Good. You know, since this is an 80s story, let's talk about Pretty in Pink. 35 years ago. We can't believe it. 35 years went by so fast. But you, in your book, you tell a little secret about that final prom scene in your hair.
Yeah, you notice right there, it's looking really good, isn't it? I was in New York at the time doing a play, and I had a shaved head, and we had to do a reshoot. They wanted to change the ending so that I would end up with Molly, as opposed to the way it originally was, where we didn't end up together. And so they gave me a very bad wig. They flew me out to California, and that wig did most of the work. I looked very forlorn and sad there and humbled. So I did a lot of fine wig acting right there.
Well, thank you for the behind the scenes. Now we're going to look at that scene a whole differently now. But, you know, you said that you almost wrote this book a few times over the years. So why now? Why now is the right time?
Well, I thought I should probably write it down where I could still remember most of it. But, I think it took me a long time to come to terms with all that happened in my youth. You know, those were a couple, 3, 4, 5, 6 years that just sort of altered my life completely. And the whole Brat Pack thing was so intense at the time. And I think it took me a good while to kind of come to terms with it and what it really was about, and look under that rock. I kind of ran from my youth very quickly, and it's affected everything that's come after it, and yet I'd never looked at it. So, and I think I finally came to terms with what I think the Brat Pack means to me, which is sort of this iconic, affectionate term for a period of time in our youth that a generation sort of uses me as their avatar for their youth, and it took me a while to come to terms with that, I think.
I'll bet that's a lot to come to terms with. Tell us about the time the Brat Pack met the Rat Pack.
Yeah, I was working on St. Elmo's Fire, and Rob Lowe invited me out to dinner with him and his girlfriend. I showed up at the restaurant, and then my dinner partner next to me was someone named Liza. And I'm like, oh, hi, Liza. And then after dinner, Liza said, why don't we all go out to Sammy's? And I thought Sammy's was some nightclub or something. So I'm like, yeah, definitely, let's go to Sammy's. And we drove up into the Beverly Hills, and we went to some house, and I'm like, this is not a nightclub. What is this? The door opened, and then there's Sammy Davis Jr. going, cats, come on in.
Wow.
And so Sammy was having a party, and he said, listen, I'm just screening a flick. You guys go on up to the billiard room. We'll be down in a few minutes and join the party. And I'm like, okay, Sammy. And so it was fantastic. I mean, that was still when old Hollywood still kind of existed just a little bit and was welcoming us into the club, as it were. And that was a crazy night.
That sounds like it. And your oldest son and your daughter, they're following your footsteps in the acting. Did you encourage or discourage them?
Well, yeah, life is cruel to parents, isn't it? I always swore my kids would not become actors. But, if people get the acting bug, there's nothing really you can do about it. I didn't want them to be 30 years old and go, oh, my dad made me go to law school. Although I don't know that my kids would have gotten into law school. But, but, they seem to have an aptitude for it. And for now, they're enjoying it. My son's on a very successful show called Dead to Me. My daughter's been on Broadway a few times. So they seem to be thriving and passing their old man. So that's how it should be.
What do they think of your movies?
Well, my daughter, they've never seen any of my movies. My daughter saw the trailer for Pretty in Pink, and she saw me kissing Molly, and she said, I am not watching that movie. And my son, a few years ago, watched Weekend at Bernie's. Oh. And he, which is right. And afterward, he said, Dad, I love you, but that's the stupidest movie I've ever seen.
Oh,
and to which I'm like, dude, that's the point. I mean, so we made 2 of those, and they're talking about a 3rd one. So anyhow, they're not, I'm their old man. They don't need to see me in movies.
I tell you what, Andrew, we can't thank you enough for joining us this morning. And your book takes us back, and we appreciate that. A little nostalgia for us.
Thanks, guys.
Andrew's book, Brat, an 80s Story, will be available tomorrow everywhere books are sold.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here. to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.